Hey guys, I'm Bryn. This is Heather, Pharmacist Out of the Box, and we are here with Jerrica Dodd. You guys, if you have not seen her on LinkedIn and her amazing work, she is phenomenal. So she has quite the story. She's been through a lot, and she has created a lot lately.
Gosh, she is a firecracker. I can't wait for her to tell you guys her story. Hi, Jerrica.
Hi, hello to both of you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we connected, I think, on LinkedIn. You connected. You were so proactive and kind of saying, Heather, let's chat. Heather, let's chat. And then when I chatted with you, you blew my mind. So you're an incredible woman. You have an incredible story. And it really is interesting because you have devoted, I think, your life to helping other women as well. So it's such an amazing story. But where did you start in pharmacy? Just a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, just like, no, for real. 21 years ago. So I'll tell you that I actually had aspiring dreams of being a high school English teacher. Yeah, I wanted to be a 10th grade English teacher, and I wanted to teach the kids how to diagram sentences. I don't even know if they do that anymore, but that was my
dream.
Yeah, that was my dream. And so I went from being the president of the Future Teachers of America in high school to getting a full scholarship to school. And I was like, something's got to change. I need to pick a profession that can support me. And, unfortunately, still today, I think that teachers should be paid more. But nonetheless, so this dates me. I opened the catalog. It was like this, not point and click. So I opened the catalog of my university and I thumbed through the pages and said, I should do something in the medical field. Here it is. I think I'll do this pharmacy thing. And I closed the book. I never read the curriculum. So if you can imagine, every semester, my head went like this, like, what? Another chemistry class? Yeah, I was that girl. So nonetheless, obviously, I matriculated on time through pharmacy school, kept the scholarship. So I became a pharmacist and decided at the end of pharmacy school that I just wasn't ready to practice. So I went on to graduate school and a residency because I was scared. I wasn't ready to go spread my pharmacist wings. So I got more training because that's what pharmacists do. We always go get more training.
I gotta learn this and that.
Yeah, I'll just learn some more and then I'll be ready. So, and then I started my career in 2000 as a hospital pharmacy manager, because that's what that second degree, master's in pharmacy administration, helped me to do. So I realized pretty quickly that that was not going to be it for me, hospital pharmacy management. And I went into the pharmaceutical industry, my first job being with Eli Lilly, and spent 17 years in the pharmaceutical industry until last year when I retired, if you would say, from the industry, and have been building my own, I guess some people say enterprise. I say just building my own business, building my dreams. Since I started in 2017, left the industry in 2018, and here we are in 2019.
I have goosebumps. A year.
She does.
A year. That is so beautiful.
Because you're doing amazing things. We hadn't even got to that part yet. So that time between 2018 to now, 2019.
So much has happened. Yeah. And most of it, I'll tell you, ladies, most of it was not my plan. Most of it was I just wanted, I left the pharmaceutical industry because my health, I needed to put my health as a priority. And so just to give you some perspective, I was falling asleep driving. I wasn't sleeping at night. And if I did happen to fall asleep at night, I woke up in a panic attack. So it was like 911 for my health. And so that's why I left. I loved my job. I loved my manager, and I worked for a great company and in the end, but I knew that I had to choose my health. And I remember sitting at my dining room table saying, something's got to give, but I didn't know what. I was so afraid because I'm not married. And so I am the breadwinner in my household. And to make a decision to walk away from, over $200,000 total, that's a lot, especially when there's no one there to kind of help cushion what that could be like. So, but what I knew was that I trust God, and I trusted that He'd gifted me with skills, talents, and abilities. And so that's what I went to work using.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think you're alone. I mean, your situation is hard when you are by yourself. Like that adds an extra layer of stress to worry about. But I think there are many of our listeners or even like they have a family, they have a husband, and it's still, or they have kids, you know, and it's like you still have all those things of like, oh my gosh, like so many people are relying on me. And so I don't think, you know, that's I think a very common theme in some of the people we know, who want to make a change in their career. And it's like, but what if, right?
And you know, with the profession being over 55% women, I think it's very common that even, I mean, I talked to many women. I've been on the phone with 2 pharmacists already, women pharmacists this morning, because that's what I spend a lot of my days doing, is talking to women pharmacists. And even if they have a spouse and their spouse is working, oftentimes they tell me that they are still the primary breadwinner,
right?
Or they carry the medical insurance. And so whether I believe that whether you're single or whether you're married, those things are all very real. And so definitely I had to think about medical insurance too. But you know, the interesting thing that happened is when I left my job on August 31st of 2018. When I left my job, my health problems subsided. So I stopped falling asleep while I was driving. I stopped not being able to sleep at night, and the panic attacks went away. And so I remember going to one last doctor's appointment in October of last year. And he kept saying, he was like, Miss Dodd, you look so great. Like, I was like, I left my job. And he goes, well, I know, but like, what are you going to do? But you look so great. And it's like, I didn't have a need. I haven't had a need to be in the doctor's office. And so while I was worried about, you know, medical insurance, I haven't really used it. I do have medical insurance. But I haven't really used it because I'm doing better.
Yeah. And that speaks to, I think if you can just get past that fear, because I think that fear is huge, that what if phase. And I kind of went through it myself. We talked, but you know, like once you kind of walk through that and you're like, I don't care. God is telling me 150%, I have got to leave where I am right now. There's no like, and then, so even though you still had the anxiety of what in the heck you were going to do, like I still had that, like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. That was so much in a healthier space than where you were behind that fear. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you let go of that and you decided to move, that made so much difference.
Yeah, I decided that I needed to put myself as a priority. So for you and those who may not know, you know, some of my backstory, for the, you know, first, 41 years of my life, took care of everybody else. I made sure everybody else was happy.
We all do.
Yeah.
The woman thing. Yeah.
The woman thing. Well, I did that to the detriment of my health. So, you know, having brain surgery 3 years ago, what you got to understand is that 13 years prior to that surgery 3 years ago, I ran around with all these symptoms that no one, not even me as a healthcare professional, had taken the time to just sit down and look at what's going on. So I'm running around with all these symptoms. So we got urinary incontinence, yet I've had no kids. I hear women who have had kids complain about their bladders. Well, what was wrong with mine? I've not had children. So, you know, my bladder, I can't walk on my right leg. Fainted, got carpet burn under my eye because I was in motion when I fainted and I fell, you know, while I was walking. Like, you know, all these things are happening. I've got this pressure built up in my head. I developed glaucoma, all of these symptoms, and I'm running from doctor to doctor to doctor, and no one is looking at the entire patient. Everyone is looking at that part of the body that they specialize in. And I just remember like standing in the ophthalmologist's office saying, will you please call the neurologist? Like, please, can you guys? So by that time, I had gotten to a point of like trying to get my hands around what was going on with my health. But prior to that, urinary incontinence, let's go see the gynecologist. Okay, on with life, back to making everybody else happy, taking care of everybody else. And so for 13 years, it was like I played the whack-a-mole game that you play at the fair where the little mole pops up, you beat it down until the next one pops up. So that's what my symptoms were like. And what I realized, and it even took, you know, after the brain surgery, But it took me, number one, saying, okay, everybody else has got to just take a back seat. I have to prioritize I'm a healthcare professional.
I know.
I need to help these people figure this out. I need to get the right people on my healthcare team because I had the wrong ophthalmologist who was not even treating the glaucoma. And so I had to get the right ophthalmologist. I even went to Johns Hopkins because I couldn't get into Emory's system. They would not see me because I did not have a referral. I mean, it was bananas when I really started to try to get my arms wrapped around it. And so, but I knew that I had to, and so now looking back, I had to become the CEO of my health. Like no one was doing it. I'm begging people to talk to each other. I had to become my own priority, which was a life lesson, not just about health. And so that's when I was like, okay, it's time to leave, it's time to leave this person. It's time to leave this job because I needed to take care of me.
Yeah.
And I had not done that in my adult life. I can tell you, I remember my dad telling me at 8 years old, it's not your job to take care of everybody. It's not your job to make everybody happy. He told me that at 8, but what he didn't tell me was how not to do that or even what that looked like. I mean, what's an 8-year-old know about making people happy? Like, what does he mean? But it was so true and so telling and played out for many, many years. And so last year when I'm falling asleep driving, waking up, I had heard people talk about panic attacks, but I'm telling you, when I woke up in my own, I was like, okay, this is that's not how I want to live. And so it was then that I decided, like, I trust God, and I don't believe that he brought me this far to only bring me this far. Like, he didn't say, I brought you this far now. Okay, you're on your own. I just won't believe that. And it's been amazing because I had already started building Your Pharmacy Advocate, which is my pharmacy consulting practice. I'd already started building that in 2017. 2018, I'm like, okay, I can't stay any longer. I got to leave the job. And all I wanted to do was put my head down and just build that consulting practice. Well, pharmacists kept calling me. They were interrupting me. I was like, I can't talk to you. I'm trying to build my consulting practice. Like, I just wanted to put my head down because I've got to now survive. Like, I've got to have medical insurance. I've got to provide for myself. Like, I don't have time to talk to you and give you pointers over the phone. I can't do that. And I just remember thinking, like, I really need to take a step back because lots of people, lots of women calling me. So I need to take the calls. And I said to my coach last December, I'm going to coach pharmacists. I had 2 coaches. I said it to both of them. I'm going to coach pharmacists. And that's all I said. And I just kind of left it there.
Okay.
But I do believe that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So that's why when I listen to people talk and they say things like, oh, I don't have the money, I'm broke, or I'm don't say that. Life comes from here. So I choose to speak life because I want to live. I got a long time to live. I want to live. And so I watch what I speak. So I said, I'm going to coach pharmacists. That's all I said. Full circle in May, they start calling me going, I'll pay you to coach me. And not to build what I was building, but to build their dreams. And so if you ever talk to me long enough, I talk about you need to build your dreams, like what's in your heart, because if you don't build that, you'll come back full circle and you'll be like, oh, I'm still not fulfilled.
You're still here. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Life and death are spoken by the tongue. That's so true. Because I'm a big thought person too. It's also your thoughts become words, but back and forth. But
out of
you
heart,
say,
mouth to speak.
But no, it's so true. Like you have to be careful what you put out there because it's powerful. It's more powerful than people realize.
So what does your work typically look like now? I know you are in Oregon right now.
Yes. I came to Portland for a speaking engagement. And, the way I even got to Portland is and so this is where, our analytical colleagues will be like, all right, don't tune out. Like if you're listening, don't tune out. Analytical colleagues, don't tune out. Because I had my coach challenge me in January. And she asked me if I loved where I lived. And I said, well, it's all right. I'm from there. I said, I like it, but I didn't say I loved it. So she says, Absolutely. You need to live in a city that you love, one that inspires you. So I'm at a business retreat in the hills of LA, in January, and I'm like, oh, so I'm making a list of all the cities that I love. Nashville, Austin, San Diego, LA, Portland, Seattle. I'm naming it, all these cities that I love. And then something just really tugged at my heart to look at the Pacific Northwest. So then I started dreaming, you know what? I want to have a place that I can go to anytime I want in 4 corners of the country. I've got the Southeast on lock because that's where I'm from. But let's go start scouting. I want to go start scouting out that next place. And I'll tell you that if your dreams do not frighten you, then they're not
big enough. I've seen that poster. I love that.
When I said I want to have a place in 4 corners of the country, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to afford that? Like, I'm going to build my business. Like, literally.
Don't do that. Don't say that.
Right. That's when my brain kicked in. And I tell ladies all the time, because I speak to a lot of women pharmacists, do not let your brain override what's in your heart. So I had to quickly shut that conversation with myself down and go, you know what? I'm just going to go in that direction. So I selected Portland as the first city that I wanted to go and live in, just to see how I like it. I'd been to Portland, but I'd not lived there. So this summer, I left on July 30th, came back to Atlanta on September 1st, but I lived in Portland for a month, me and my dog, and I loved it. I loved it. And so I met, so now I have a community of people here that when I just got back here, October 18th, when I flew back here, I'm landing and saying, hey, I'm in town. Can you do coffee? Can you do lunch? Because I've built a community. And that's one of my dreams, is that wherever I go, that I have love, laughter, and community. And so it's partly the reason why what you see on social media, because you're like, oh my gosh, Jerrica Dodd, she's out there. I mean, people see me and they go, oh, I see you out there. Well, it's because I'm building community, because you don't know how many times I go places and people go, oh my God, I know you, I follow you, because I've built community with social media. And I think that it's so important to connect with people, because my coach says connection is currency. And so it's important that not only, networking is good, but you have to connect with people. So I love connecting just to say, hey, let me tell you about you. You tell me, let me tell you about me. You tell me about you. And you make these heart connections that are invaluable. And if there's supposed to be business that comes out of it, it will.
Yeah, exactly. Let the universe, let the divine make it happen. Don't worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and you've done that, I think, in kind of one of your latest achievements that just recently happened. You're talking about connection and building other people and making community or relationships with other people. So tell us about your magazine or your stories.
So these pharmacists that came and said, hey, will you coach me? I'm like, all right, I'll coach you. So I started coaching, and believe it or not, I have, as of this recording, I have 15 coaching clients. Wow. And it's interesting because, pharmacists, like I said, we got to go get that extra training. We got to get that website done. We gotta. And you know what? There is no website right now that says Jerrica Dodd's coaching for pharmacists. It doesn't exist. Because you know why? I get on the phone and I continually make connections with people. I connect. And if we talk about my coaching packages or whatever, we talk about it. And if we don't, then maybe that person's not ready to hear that, not even interested in that. It's so okay, but we connect. And that's why I had these women saying, you know what? I don't know. There was just, someone even told me, I just looked at your picture and you just look like somebody I could talk to. And so I have these clients, and as I'm listening to their stories, because I call my coaching like a mix of business and life, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're a procrastinator in business, then you're procrastinating somewhere in your life too. And so we talk about business and life, and I've had the amazing fortune of watching a lot of healing take place. So, I tell you my comical story of how I chose to be a pharmacist, but there are women who are like, I had to do this because my parents required, this is what they made me do. And they said, you should, this is what your major is going to be. And they're now in their 40s with families of their own, finding their voices. Mm-hmm. I have, coaching clients who unfortunately, but maybe fortunately, are having things happen in their lives personally where it's some really, some shaking up going on. But we know that in the long run, it's going to turn out for good, because not everybody's meant to go along with you on this journey. Mm-hmm. So they're seeing like some seismic shifts happen in some of their relationships. But as I'm listening to their stories, I was like, okay, I've got to come up with a way to tell their stories. Like, I tell my story because I do podcast interviews, and I'm grateful for every platform that I get to tell my story. And my hope is that it doesn't impress people, but that it impresses upon them that they too have a story and a dream that they need to live out. But I was like, I've got to find a way to tell these women's stories. I want to introduce these women to the world, to women in pharmacy, so that, because I don't want another woman to go to bed feeling like there's no hope. Like, I get on the phone and cry with women who are like, oh my gosh, I just got written up at work because I worked 12 hours and then I went home and I'm on call and I got called and I didn't go back in. But my kids have been home all day by themselves and I've been gone 12 hours already. I just couldn't physically get, like, I'm on the phone crying with them too, going, oh my gosh, this is terrible, and trying to help them understand, like, when you're ready to make a change, you can. Yeah. And so the magazine was born out of wanting to show the woman who gets on the call with me that sounds like that, hey, look at these women who've been fired, who've had crazy stuff happen in their work life, but who've decided, I'm going to pivot and start building my dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think that we need to all hear that, because I think there are women and or men that are in a job that they think they should just pull their bootstraps up and like that they're the only one who's feeling this way. And I should just suck it up. And, luckily we justify everything. Luckily I have this job, or luckily I make this $200,000 a year, we can talk ourselves out of it. And I think having those stories of like, no, there are other people who are in your same situation that are struggling just like you is really important.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that whether you grew up and being a pharmacist was your dream or not, I don't think anyone had a dream of working in a job that they felt like they weren't valued or they felt like they weren't appreciated. No one raises their hand.
No, sign me up for that. Yeah.
No one says, oh, I'll sign up for not going to the bathroom, not being able to eat, not being able. I just read the post of a woman in a pharmacist group who talked about working 2 to 3 12-hour shifts in a row and how hard it is to recover. Mm-hmm. The day that you have off. So you've got this day off, but you're in bed, and then I read a story of another one who says, I keep second guessing myself. I keep wondering, did I make a mistake in that?
I used to do that all the time. Mm-hmm. Public. Oh, sorry. Like, where I used to work.
No one signs up for that. And I think that it will play on your mind and make you think, oh, you're the only one. You're the only one that's tired after 3 12-hour days.
Right. Right. Now that's such a benefit to all of these pharmacists. Yeah.
So you're doing the patient advocacy side, and are you doing that remotely or just in the Southeast?
No, it's remotely. Because awesome. When I built the business, my goal was to serve in 3 different ways. Number one, to serve patients, because as I walked my own journey through the healthcare system, you heard me say I couldn't get an appointment because I didn't have a referral. Yet when I did get to Johns Hopkins, did get back to Atlanta, find a different set of doctors, did get that referral, I sat in front of a neurosurgeon who said, oh, you need brain surgery. Like, as matter of factly as I just said it, that's how he said it. But what if I'd never taken my health in my own hands? So I decided that I wanted to build something that would help patients, because not everybody has that fortitude to say, I'm going to Johns Hopkins, gosh darn it, I got to get some help. And not everybody can do that.
Or they don't know what resources.
Yeah, you're a healthcare professional. Just imagine the patient out there who doesn't know a lick about anything medical.
And doesn't know, I kept saying, along that journey, I kept saying, because I was doing my own research when I really started to try to get my hands around it, look for intracranial hypertension. Look, I kept saying it, and they're kind of like, oh, okay. But So one, I wanted to build something that would advocate for patients. Now, granted, I don't go to Johns Hopkins with patients, but, help them in, number one, understanding their medication, help them because most physicians are not looking for nutrient depletion. And we know many drugs deplete nutrients. So who's looking at that? We live in a world of supplements these days because you have alternative and holistic medicine and functional medicine, which I'm training in. So I think the pharmacist is the perfect person to be that go-between between conventional medicine, and because we know drugs, but then we also know supplements. So who better to have that conversation with healthcare practitioners on behalf of patients? And then for healthcare practitioners who may not readily admit it, but think, gosh, or maybe don't even know that they need it, but who think, gosh, it really would be nice to have a pharmacist look over my shoulder and take a look at this complex patient. Is there anything I'm missing? I'd love to have a pharmacist point of view. I don't have to rehash research that's shown having a pharmacist on the team, is very valuable. And then I also wanted to create something that would allow pharmacists to not stand up on their feet all day for 8 hours, much less 12, such that they could have that interaction with patients that many of us desired when we were getting out of school and we thought was going to be our role. But it would give them an opportunity to virtually take care of patients while they too were living the life that they desired. Because if you're able to take care of a patient from your hotel room or your home or wherever, and all you need is a laptop and a cell phone, that gives you more control over what your day-to-day looks like, what your life looks like, because you're not in a physical place or building for 8 to 12 hours on your feet, or whatever your working situation might be. And so when I built Your Pharmacy Advocate, it was to address those 3 gaps.
Wow. So you don't have to go to the doctor's appointment with them. How do you get the information from there, like that gets communicated in that room, I guess?
So what we can do is we can prepare patients to go see the doctor. And so you hear me throw around that phrase, become the CEO of your health. And I promise you that when patients are prepared to go see their doctor and they've got notes because we've had a prep session and say, okay, this is what you need to ask about. Take your blood pressure or your blood sugar readings so that you can, it's a different conversation.
Right. They come in there, educated patient, ready. Yeah, that's great.
And then they in turn are leading eventually an active part of their healthcare team. So there's a different conversation that happens when a patient saunters in, hops up on the table and just sits there and waits for whatever's being told to them. Because I can tell you that from testing my father, when he comes back from the doctor, he never can tell you what the doctor said. Right. You're like, well, you were just there. Because he's been talked at and he's not really being an active part of the conversation.
Absolutely. So you talked about functional medicine and you're kind of educating yourself there. We have been talking a lot lately, it seems like, about functional medicine. Are you doing a specific program with a certain organization, or what are you doing in that realm? Right. How are you educating yourself?
I'm working through the certification program with the Institute of Functional Medicine, so it's ifm.org. And I'm actually this week going to be finishing the last module of training. And my goal is to spend the next year studying and preparing for the certification exam and then taking that exam. So I just found, because I have a functional medicine practitioner personally, and I found that a lot of what was going on, I mean, obviously that would not have negated me having to have the brain surgery I had, but a lot of what was going on, I don't know that conventional medicine would have ever found it. Right. Like they generally, I think the adrenal fatigue that I was experiencing, I think it would have just gone unnoticed, and I think it would have just been around a circular, not getting to the bottom of it. So as I began to, access functional medicine for myself personally, I was like, this is good. There's a place for pharmacists here. And so I think it's really important for pharmacists, because it really, it really challenges some of the ways that we learned when we were in school.
Well, yeah. And I love the way, from what we've learned, and you can correct us, but just that functional medicine really looks at what's causing all of the symptoms and all the conditions and diseases versus, oh, let's just give a pill for that. Oh, that's happening. Let's just give a pill for that. So it's actually like, let's dig a little deeper and see like what's going on in your nutrition and your environment and your stress level. And sorry.
Right. No, and I was just going to say that I think the pharmacist is the perfect professional to be involved in functional medicine, because they are the ones who understand all the biochemical equations that we learned in pharmacy school. And, this is a place to really put that into action. I sit in my functional medicine training with obviously way more physicians. I mean, you can count the pharmacists usually on one hand out of a room of 200 people. You may have 5 pharmacists. Generally, most people are physicians. And so when you start to ask them, like, do you remember that? No. We are the ones who were taught that. And so I think that it creates a valuable space for the pharmacist to help physicians, not to practice medicine. Underline that. She said it. Not medicine. Because, these podcasts are shown and who knows, whatever. But to be a valuable player in the healthcare team. Patients, I have this thing that I say, it's in my bio. Everyone needs a pharmacist at some point in their life.
Mm. So true.
Well, and there's just so many things, even on the physician level, like if we don't address like the mental side of things, like we're not going to get anywhere with any amount of medications or any amount of counseling about how physical fitness is important and diet when you can't get past like what you think about all those things. And so I think it's really encouraging, I think, to me, for us to see at least, from the physicians. I think that makes me feel really good that there's tons of physicians involved, because I think we need to move in that direction. If we really want to help patients and truly help them, we're going to have to move in that space. Like that's where we're going to have to go.
Yeah, because America we spend a lot of our gross domestic product on healthcare, but we don't necessarily live any longer or have a better quality of life than any other developed nation. And so, and not to debate the merits of any nation's healthcare system compared to our own, we won't solve that here, but we spend a lot of money on healthcare, but I don't know that we're seeing the return on that investment.
Oh gosh, no, you can see the graphs. It's always interesting to see the graphs. Like when you talk about spending on healthcare, we're always at the top of that curve. And then if you show like the quality of our healthcare and the outcomes, we're down here at the bottom. So they're two totally different graphs. But gosh, you're just,
I know, it's a wealth of information.
Yeah,
so
this is
if
amazing.
People wanted to change up their lifestyle, it doesn't look like obviously you had a very big passion for patient advocacy, but you started there advocating for patients, built into coaching other pharmacists. So people can find their gifts and find a way to use them. And then you went a step further, you're doing the functional medicine and so many other things. How do you self-care with all this, like all these wonderful things? And you have 2 coaches, you said. So I find that interesting.
I did at that time. So, the notion of self-care is really interesting. And that's a really positive buzzword, if you will, now. It's used quite a bit. And I heard a talk recently where the speaker talked about self-care, and she said, usually we're, imploring self-care because we're trying to basically fix ourselves so that we can deal with whatever the dysfunction of work is. That's why we do self-care. It's, it's because,
broken.
Right. It's because we're just trying to deal with whatever it is. So we're like, oh, I need some self-care because whatever. And so for me, I guess you would say I incorporate self-care, but I take it a step further and I say, this is how I want to live.
That's awesome.
Because you see, when I was working, even though I liked my job, I loved my manager, worked for a great company. When I was working, I needed more self-care because of the stress of the job. But you see, now I'm creating and continue to create the life I love. So yes, I still need to take care of myself, and I do, but it comes a little easier, not that desperate, oh my God, I need, self-care because I just got to get away from this crazy place. Like,
You're living your passion. You're living your heart. Like you're following your heart. And when you do that, it just feels good. Yeah. Oh, I just love that. And I have to be ooey gooey for a minute because that's just who I am. And so I think you define what I always like tell students, or I kind of tell my yoga students. And I truly believe that if you pay attention to your heart and you pay attention to what is it that fires your belly, it's not the same as the person beside you. What fires your belly? And if you just trust God, the universe, whatever, the higher power, if you just trust and you just say, I'm going to do what feels passionate in my heart, everything works out. Like you just followed your passion. You followed what felt good. Cause unfortunately, many of us get to that point of like, I can't take this anymore. And we surrender. It takes that pull down breaking to like surrender. And then if you can surrender to your passion and surrender to your heart, don't worry about things. Like that's what I love about these stories is like, you will be provided for. God will send you your resources. And I love the fact that you were like so focused on your business. It's like that. And they kept knocking on your door. It was like God, the universe was like, calling you on the phone. Hello, hello. And you're like, stop. So it's like being more aware. We were talking about this, like just being more aware and conscious of your calling. And those nudges, to me, I always tell the students, you feel those nudges. You feel them. You can't ignore them. You got to listen.
Well, because I believe that if you do ignore them, that's when you end up hitting that wall. Yes. And for me, I think that first wall, which I don't know that I learned from it, the first wall was brain surgery. Like it took everything. Like if you could have been a fly on the wall in the consultation room with the neurosurgeon, he walked out, like he walked in and introduced himself and he said, I'm just going to go step out and look at your MRI. He wasn't out there. Like he didn't go out there and stay. He walked out, he looked at it, he walked right back in. I don't know how much time, passed, but it was like literally, it was a couple of minutes. Like he wasn't out there studying and measuring. He walked back in and he said, you need brain surgery. And I literally thought that we were having an intellectual conversation about what my options were. But literally, I was contending with myself because I didn't know how to let everybody else be okay for a moment and go lie down and take care of me. So when he said that, I had a little attitude and I said, well, what happens if I don't do it? And he looked at me he was standing and he looked at me just as matter-of-factly and he says, well, you'll be paralyzed. And so then, I'm like, well, so this is March when he and I are having this conversation. And I am thinking, well, I just started a new job and it's not a good time.
This is not a good time for me to be sick. I'm sorry.
So I said, well, you know what? I think the company has like a mandated company shutdown for a week in August. How about that? And he looked at me and I said, so how long do I have? And literally the rest of that sentence was, how long do I have until I'm paralyzed? Because I already know what the outcome is going to be if I don't do it. And so I'm like, how long can I push it? How long can I take care of everybody else? How long can I be the loyal employee, the dutiful church ministry leader, the faithful daughter? How long can I do all of that before I'm paralyzed? Women do that and we shouldn't. And I believe that if he said to me, well, you'll be paralyzed on September 1st, then I would have been like, let's schedule that surgery for August 31st.
August 31st. I'll be there. Yep.
I would have done that. And so I just remember him looking at me. He probably thought, this lady has lost her mind. But, he can't tell me. All he could say is, this is what will happen. And what my condition is I have a Chiari malformation. And because of the Chiari malformation, the brainstem was being squeezed, so on and so forth, it caused me to develop a fluid-filled cyst in my spinal cord. So my cerebral spinal fluid was collecting in a cyst in my spinal cord. It wasn't bathing my brain like it should be. So if you can imagine, I've got this pressure in my head. I've developed glaucoma likely as a result of this pressure in my head, pressure behind the eye. And, I've had all these other signs and symptoms, and I'm in here debating on if I'm going to do it or not, and how long can I hold it up. And so literally I had to come to my senses because it was just such a foreign idea to take care of me.
Mhm.
And when you do start taking care of you, people may think you're selfish. People may go, oh, because they're used to you taking care of them first. But I believe that you have to put your own oxygen mask on. And in the magazine, the upcoming premiere issue, I wrote an article about putting your own mask on first.
Yeah.
And I like what you were saying, because I think it challenges what is taking care of yourself, because it's different at different times. Like, I'd look at your and like, she's a yoga instructor. She's been doing Zumba for years. She has self-care. She is taking care of herself. But when you really like dive deep into your life, we can all find things that we can do things differently, or how we can, like, you're reaching out, you're dreaming big, you're creating this life that is pretty much caring about yourself and those around you.
Yeah.
Like, that is just so really cool concept.
Yeah,
I'm like blown away.
It is.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing it too, because I know you're such a busy woman nowadays. So.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure to share and to connect, as I said before. And so it's truly been my honor to meet the two of you and to learn about what you're doing. And so, yes, I will hunt you down like I did Heather. Like, we gotta talk. I want to know you.
Yeah, she will. She will. It's awesome.
Come to Florida anytime.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah, we would love to have you. But make sure you send us your information, whether it's your new fancy smancy website, where, you know, it's your email, whatever you want for people who would like to reach out to you.
Sure.
Send that to us so we can include it. We'll definitely include that in our verbiage.
It's Jerrica Dodd, guys, for those listening at the end of the podcast. So
yes,
definitely look her up.
Yes, she's definitely a pharmacist out of the box.
Yes.
So I'm Heather.
I'm Bryn.
And we'll see you next time on Pharmacists Out of the Box.
Bye, guys.